Hello, fucks. Welcome to John Solo's Beard Brigade Never-Ending Talk to the Beard Extravaganza Gonzola Big Dick episode. Hello! And yeah, so somebody else that doesn't need any introduction. I'm trying to do a good mix of bringing on a lot of people that I know that are my friends, and then a lot of people that I haven't met yet. You are certainly in the category of people I know, and I consider kind of a friend at this point. We've talked on Talk to the Beard, and before that, I didn't really know you. But after like 45 minutes of talking about flamingos and dicks, I felt like I got the gist of Lynn Van Dorn.
I should have brought my dick with me because I have a stuffed one that.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw that when we were leaving for lunch.
And I should have brought it with me.
You have a stuffed. So
yes.
Who did we just run into in the hallway downstairs that had a stuffed dick? There was some.
She was gone.
That was.
So that was your stuffed dick.
That was my stuffed dick. Yes, that was my PA getting my stuffed dick, and it was apparently super awkward because the clergy, and then also it dropped in front of like a man and his son, and the man went to go pick it up, and then he looked at it and was like freaking out. So I owe my PA several drinks. You know, especially since we were in the bar to begin with, and I was finishing up my lunch, and we were really getting really close to my lunchtime. So she's like, "Let me go back to your room. I'll get all your stuff."
I'm not trying to put this straight into your face. It's not the first time. I did the same joke with Andrew Gray, and he didn't even laugh. He was just like, "Yeah, it was like an accepted thing. Like, yeah, these things are in my face constantly."
Okay, so I was eating lunch in the bar, and my PA Charity came and she was like, "I'll get your stuff from the room and it'll save us some time." And I'm like, "No problem." And then I go, "Oh, by the way, could you get my dick too?" And she's like, "You said it really loud." And I'm like, "I'm just a loud person."
Well, it is that dick is like a cartoon sized, guys.
It's like 2 feet long.
It was like this, like a big, I don't know. I don't think it's inflatable. It's stuffed is what it was. No,
it's stuffed. It's a stuffed animal.
So
except it's a penis.
It's like in a cartoon that they bring out a hammer and it's like the big ham. It's like that, but a cock.
And it has a little cute little face on it.
I did not notice. I guess I didn't look that
closely.
It
totally has a very friendly little face.
She was very concerned about the clergy, and I tried to tell her, priests have dicks too.
I was about to say, if anybody knows about dicks, it would be Catholic priests. Yeah,
well, I mean, that was definitely more of an adult dick, I think. And there we went. So we were talking about panels, and you were saying that you are going on. You just did a tropey panel, a panel on tropey tropes, and I was enjoying the conversation. I wanted to say, and I talked about this the other day on air, but my best friend, Anna Bird, and she had a great point about this. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I've done a lot of books, and you've written a lot of books. Maybe you run into the same problem I do. Maybe not. I don't know. So sometimes I get bored with some of the books. It depends on the author and basically how well it is written or not. It doesn't happen as much to me now as it used to. I'm getting far better quality books later on in my career than some of them. Yeah, than I did early on. But sometimes I'm just like, fuck, I've read this 20 times. Like I've read the same thing.
The trick is making the trope your own. I mean, theoretically, you can give, like we said in the panel, Beth pointed out, you could give 5 people the same trope and you'd get 5 different books. Mm-hmm. And you should be getting 5 different books. If you're not getting 5 different books, then that means that the writers are not writing what's inside them. They're writing what they think people want to buy, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's when you get that, I think. When you have somebody who just writes from whatever comes inside them, you're going to get 5 totally different books.
I think it's a valid point.
And I think that's the big thing with tropes is you need them. You have to have them. They are completely necessary. In the talk, I said that tropes are like a skeleton. Mm-hmm. And the skeleton is pretty much the same for everybody. But then you put all the flesh and everything on top of it, and you get a completely different person. And that's the tropes are your spinal cord and backbone and your bones, and the story itself is the flesh on top of it.
That's a fantastic way of looking at it.
So, and that's how I see it. At least I really don't think you can write a book, especially romance, without your tropes. You'll end up with a big pile of jelly.
I've read, well, a lot of times I was saying to you earlier, a lot of times I don't realize I'm reading a trope. If it's written well, I don't.
If it's written well, yes.
And even me as a narrator, like I I'm looking for the beats. That's where I'm looking for my crescendos. I'm looking for where I need to be up in the story, where I need to be down. I know the sex is going to happen at 60% in. I'm looking for these things, right?
But it better happen before 60%.
40% is supposed to be, but 60%.
Actually, I was told in the very beginning that it was 20%.
20%?
20%.
Jesus Christ, that would explain.
But I had written my book before I was told this, but it's okay because I came well before the 20%, so it was fine. But I'm not one to like put the sex off. So there you go.
Well, I've heard the sex before 60. I've heard that one. And
if you don't have sex by 60, there's a problem, and you need to start just writing cozy mysteries.
It's not a bad point. But I've read these where I, as a narrator who know the beats, I still have not seen the trope coming before.
Which is always good.
It was enjoyable to me, yes. I've seen others where 10 pages in, I'm like, I don't need to finish this pre-read. I know exactly where this is going. And yeah, it's all.
And sometimes, even knowing where you're going, it doesn't matter if the trope is written well and it's something that it's a trip you want to go on.
So that was her point exactly. You and Anna are very. So she said it doesn't matter if you don't care about the why. The why did this happen and how did this happen? She says that she gets bored during action movies because she doesn't freaking care. She knows the hero's going to win and she doesn't care how it happens. Whereas if you are invested in a good story, you care about the why and the how.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if you know the outcome. It doesn't matter at all because you want to know how it happened.
Yes. And that's really the key to romance novels. Having a surprise ending on a romance novel is almost always a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Because the people reading romance novels don't want surprises.
Sure.
They may say they want surprises. They may even say, don't spoil me, whatever, which I totally understand. But at the same time, if you don't have the correct formula, then A, it's not a romance novel, and B, you will have people who are upset. And they may not even know why they're upset, but they're upset because you've broken the mold. And there are times when breaking the mold is a good idea, but a lot of times, there are certain things you have to stick to. I suppose a big one would be a romance novel that ends with an unhappy ending. That's at that point, it's no longer a romance novel.
Yeah, you and Anna.
So you have to
just fine.
Yeah.
She said the exact same thing. That's not a romance novel.
Yeah,
and she's right. We have these jokes in the crowd when I'm working a lot, where somebody will say, "Is this one an HEA?"
Of course
I've
they
narrated 300. They're all every single one.
They better be.
But the thing is, they have bought into the story, and they're really concerned about the how, and they're really concerned about if the character is actually going to make it. Even probably in the back of their head, these people are not dumb. They know the character is going to make it.
But still,
they're really it's amazing to me. And I've actually been in these stories before too, where I got that wrapped up. Doesn't happen as much to me, I think, as it happens to some of the readers.
But no, that makes sense though.
Yeah, I'm a little more. I'm looking for the technical beats of it.
As a writer, I do the same thing when I'm reading, but I even did that before I started like writing, really. So I think it might just be something that I can write because those are things that I could see naturally.
Are you able to enjoy reading the genre now because you're looking for the beats?
I can definitely enjoy it, but I will tell you that it has to be what I call crack in order for me to read it.
Yeah, really freaking good.
I have to have the crack. And it doesn't have to be necessarily good crack. It's just got to be my crack.
Now you're talking my language.
So, like, for instance, I have a few like big weaknesses. One of them is mobster books. I'm never going to write one ever, but boy, do I love reading them. And I love Professor Students. I did get to write one of those, so there is that. But I love Professor Student. You like all you have to tell me is Professor Student. I don't even care. I will read it. So I've got my crack, and I've got a few authors that I just read them regardless. But I do a lot of my reading on Audible.
Okay.
So I generally am listening to it after everybody else has read it, which is fine, but that's just easier for me. It's easier for me to listen than it is to read, if that makes any sense.
I'm not able to read for pleasure ever anymore. I don't have time. But if I do listen to a book, which same thing, but if I'm listening to a book, it's the only thing I have time for, and I'll do it while I'm driving back and forth to a meeting. I listen to a lot of nonfic. I really
do too.
Yeah, I love it. It's another way to learn, and I love to learn. So if I'm cruising back and forth to a meeting, a lot of times that's what I'll have. I'm playing that or YouTube in the background. That's when I'm learning something, one or the other.
I really listen to a lot of nonfiction, and I listen to things that are not MM, but I have quite a few MMs as well. But I have like almost 1,000 audiobooks.
Good Lord!
And probably maybe a quarter of them are MM.
Okay.
And I really, really, really love, if we're talking nonfiction, I like anything that's historical and or medical and or involving some sort of plague.
Are you one of those chicks that likes to watch or listen to and learn about how people died and how they were killed and then to solve the mystery thing of this? I'm asking because my wife does this.
Yes, and not exactly, because that's like the whole true crime, like serial killer, whatever, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. But I am interested in the medical standpoint.
Okay.
So I like, instead of serial killers, I like cholera outbreaks.
Okay. Well, to each their own.
And so if you can give me a book that's got like medical history with a lot of people dying from some sort of disease, and then somebody comes in and like fixes everything, totally my jam.
Okay. That's cool. You see, I learned about tech. That's what I do. So same. I mean, I got my kink too. Do you have any, when you're listening in the genre, do you have any favorite narrators? I know you like Michael.
Yes, right? I like Michael. But
yeah.
Love you, Michael. Let's see here. Yeah, I like Kurt Graves. And you've got a very nice voice. And
I wasn't digging for a compliment here.
Well, I figured it didn't matter. And I'm trying to think,
because I do have a nice voice.
You do have a nice voice. There's a couple of them where I forget their names until I hear them, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like that one. So there's that too, and I can't remember. It's like I could like,
Well, most people don't go for the narrator. Okay.
No,
most
they
people are
don't.
going because they like the author, they like the story, and then the narrator. If they don't fuck it up, they're just fine.
Yes,
that's the key.
Although I found a surprising amount of people, and this was mostly on Reddit when I was on the Audible like things on Reddit. I don't have time for it anymore, but at the time I did, and there was a lot of complaining about narrators, more than I expected. And I'm kind of like, I'm just not that picky.
Well, most people aren't, but then there are some voices are a very, it's just like stories, I guess, but voices are a very subjective thing. And some people's voices, you could be a fantastic narrator and they just don't like your voice. There's just something in the audible circuit that says to your brain, that voice is screeching, no, I can't do that. I can't listen to it. Whereas other people absolutely love that narrator's voice.
Yeah.
There's other factors in it too, I believe. There's the acting ability. There's the technical side of it. Does it actually sound good? There's all these things. But at the end of the day, I've got a good voice. I'm a pretty good actor.
You do.
But there are some people that will not listen to one of my audiobooks because they don't like my voice. It happens.
I mean, I guess it happens. Yeah,
exactly.
I've certainly run into people and they're like, well, I never liked this narrator. I never listened to him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm kind of like, if he's reading a book I like, I don't care.
That's where I was before I got in the industry. Like, unless the narrator really fucked it up hard.
Yeah.
I never even thought about the narrator. It was just.
There were some I knew that I liked better than others, but I'm pretty much willing to let anybody read to me.
Yeah, because I want to read the story, and I don't have time to read the story.
The exception of the dude who reads the stupid like Game of Thrones books. Sorry, I totally blanked out.
I don't remember his name, but they had two different ones, and when they switched over, the second dude was totally fucking up the pronunciations on a lot of the names.
Well, and the first one. Okay, the first one got the pronunciation right. I only got like halfway through the first book. Okay, that's as far as I got. Okay. I read the books.
Yeah,
but I was like, oh, I listened to these. This will be awesome. And he just has this voice that just is boring.
Perfect. That's exact. You couldn't have made my point better. Okay, so a lot of people really love those, and I listened to that book, and I thought the dude was just fine, but that voice was off for you.
Yeah,
that is such a subjective thing.
Very,
and it is. I don't think it's choice. I don't think that you have a choice in your head of, well, he's already. I think your brain is saying that voice is fucking annoying, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes.
So that happens to all of us.
Yes.
I am friends with narrators that I think are phenomenal voices, and then I hear some of my friends say, I hate that one. I can't stand them, and I don't understand it. I don't think it's much of a choice. I think
you're right. There's a lot of I've had ones where I've like, said, oh, listen to this audiobook, it's awesome or whatever, and they're like, oh, I hated his voice. And I'm like, So yeah, I completely am with you on that.
Yeah.
I tend to dislike very few narrators. Again, I'm not terribly picky when it comes to like listening to narration.
That's how I like my
so
girls.
it's like I have like the one that even sticks out in my head is really the Wheel. I'm with Wheel of Time. Oh my god,
that was
the Game
a
of
good one
Thrones.
too,
I actually couldn't get through Wheel of Time either. But I think my problem honestly might be I have maybe a certain attention span for fantasy. I don't know. Maybe that's my
Jody
problem.
and I were reading all the Wheel of Time stuff, right? And Jody said she tapped out when all the, I don't know how you pronounce it. I say Aes Sedai. When all the Aes Sedai started doing their
Aes Sedai works for me.
Yeah, they were starting to. It was in every scene there was like 45 pages of them just lifting their skirts and being angry at each other and all that, and just doing it. It was all just the internal, grimacing at each other and all these little. There wasn't anything happening.
I completely am with you on this.
There was like 2 or 3 books of that, and I think I made it one book beyond that. I think I made it to book 7. She made it to book 6 or something like that, and that's saying a lot because Jody is a fast reader. She could read a.
But you just hit a wall.
Yeah, exactly. Where I was done, and then you know what happened? He died. So Jordan died.
Yes, he totally did.
I stopped reading and he died.
Was it Brandon Sanderson who took over? I think it was, yeah.
And he's fantastic. And I heard it was really good, but I didn't.
But I'm like done.
Yeah, I couldn't take it. And the same thing's going to happen with George R. R. Martin. The same thing. He's not going to.
Yes, that is also very true.
That is a walking heart attack. Just waiting. Like you can look at it. He's like. I want to put him on a treadmill just so we'll finish.
Oh my god! But supposedly he has already picked out his writer. Should he die? I'm not kidding. That's what I heard in an interview. He's already got him picked out.
That makes perfect sense because he should, because he's gonna fucking die.
Oh, he totally is.
I was totally fine with the HBO ending, so I'm good with it. Whatever. I actually watched it, and everybody bitched about it, and I was like, it was fine. It's good. Now we got to wrap up. Good. We can move on.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like was Jaime and Cersei. That I wasn't happy about because honestly, Jaime didn't deserve to die. Cersei, on the other hand, we'll just crush her with a mountain. That's fine. But Jaime, I was like, Jaime deserved to like not get out of it. So I was a little irked with that, but other than that, I was okay.
Yeah. The whole brand thing going on through the entire deal with this whole third eye deal and all, I didn't get much of any of it. So I didn't like that and that was like the whole plot, and I didn't even like it, but it's all right because I loved Tyrion so much. That was one of my all-time favorite characters.
Everybody loves Tyrion. Everybody's loved Tyrion. Perfect. I mean, how can you not love Tyrion? Tyrion and Jaime were my favorites.
Yeah.
And they're both dicks. And I think that my favorite characters are always dicks.
The non-perfect character. There has to be the flaw. Character. I've seen this happen. I'm not a writer.
Here's a good example, which I don't even know if you've read these because these are girly books. But Frances Hodges Burnett wrote both The Secret Garden and A Little Princess.
I've not read either of those.
I'm not surprised. However, I always loved The Secret Garden so much more. And as an adult, I realized it's because in The Secret Garden, the character Mary is incredibly disagreeable. Like she's just a little bitch on wheels, and she becomes better as things go on. But she's basically led this life of being either neglected or spoiled, like rotten, and then her parents die, and so she's sent to England from India, and she is just not prepared for any of it. And she's a little bitch at first, and she finds out that her cousin is also, he's in the same position and he's like disagreeable also. And they kind of hook up and they're like, well, maybe we don't have to be so awful, essentially. And it's enjoyable. But in The Little Princess, she's like the main character, she's again, the spoiled whatever child, only she's not spoiled. She's like sweet and everybody loves her and blah, 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 blah. And then her father passes away and she loses all of the stuff and she becomes like a servant in the school that she's been living in. But the problem with that one is that there's no character arc really. I mean, it's good, of course, when she finally, gets found by the person who's supposed to be her guardian. And it turns out he like lives next fucking door. Of course he does. Mm-hmm. And all that blah, blah, blah. But she doesn't really grow at all. Mm-hmm. And Mary grows from A Secret Garden. So I think that's why I always like that. And that's the thing about dicks is you have somewhere to go with them.
Somehow we came back to the fuzzy dick.
Yes, we totally did.
I couldn't have planned that better.
But that is one thing. In fact, we were talking about the tropes. I was saying that one of my favorite tropes is the reformed villain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I like that whole, you were awful and you were wonderful while you were awful. But now you're going to be good, but you're still probably going to be a little awful, but at least you won't be evil or whatever. There's just something about that I just love.
Han Solo. That's his arc. It's perfect.
Exactly.
Han Solo is the lovable smuggler.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, you have this character and you need to make them likable after making them unlikable.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Have you ever read Stephen R. Donaldson?
No, but I totally know who you're talking about.
Yeah. He does that better than any author I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot because George R. Martin does that incredibly well too.
Yes. And that's part of the reason why I like Jamie so much. Because that's literally Jamie's character arc. You go from hating him to like thinking he's awesome as the books go on.
You understand the choices that he made.
Exactly. Because you understand the choices made. In fact, I'll just even do a little plug. Piper and I are writing the last book in our Dragon series. And one of the MCs is Raven, who has been an antagonist in several of the other books. And what we're doing in the book, without giving anything away, because Piper will have my head, is that we are showing why this character has behaved the way they have. That's what a large part of this book is saying, okay, yeah, this is your evil guy, but every villain, as a friend used to tell me, is a hero in his own story. And so that's kind of what you have to bring out. And doing that as a writer is fun. I love that crap.
I love making, when this is not given to me in a story on a page, I have to make this shit up in my head. If I have to make these characters real in some way, shape, or form.
You do.
And it's what I do. That's what you pay me for, not you specifically. Yet, but I
was actually discussing that with somebody, and I was saying that I would love to use you as a narrator at some point. So
I'm down. I like you. And that goes a long way in my book at this point, Mike. I'm not at the end of my career, but I'm at the point in my career where I can be a little pickier. And one of those big picks that I make is dealing with people that I like, and it's wonderful.
You know what?
Few years.
That is very much a thing, and I would much rather work with somebody that I have like a friendly relationship with. I mean, it's like, I don't care how talented you are. I have to be able to deal with you as a human being.
It makes all the difference in the world.
It totally does.
Yeah. Well, so the making these choices, sometimes those are on the page for me and they're very well spelled out and it's fantastic. I get to know why we're using the tropey word. Why we're using the tropey sheriff that hates homos and
why?
And the small, exactly.
But
so
why?
I have to make that shit up in my head, but sometimes it is spelled out on paper and you actually get the backstory a little bit. Now, not necessarily for that throw off character that only shows up for one line, but I
am a backstory girl.
So do you do like little character Bible thing where you actually?
No, it's all in my head, but I know pretty much, but I know like why characters are doing the things that they're doing, even if it never makes it in the page. I know what they're doing and why they're doing it, and it's the only way I can write. I can't just like, I don't know. I have to know everybody's story. And when I'm writing, and I've been told that this is not necessarily normal for everybody, but I essentially am seeing a little movie in my head and I'm writing down what's going on in the little movie.
That's perfect.
And so sometimes I'm like, well, what's blah, blah, blah. And so then the movie shows me like, why that character was like that. So, I'll give you a very good example actually, because I was doing the book Now You See Me as one of my tropey books during our discussion, because it's a book full of freaking tropes. It's professor student, it's age gap, it's having like, two different cultures. It's a whole bunch of stuff in there. And I had never done a voyeurism book before. And it started like that because I had been given a kink to write for a short story thing. And this book went way beyond the short story. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to write something else for that, because this is gonna be a novel. And I am not going to give this thing away. It's gotta be a novel.
Yep.
But I still had the voyeurism, right? And so I was kind of going through this thing and going, well, why is he like this? Why is he like this? And he's a voyeurist, among other things. He likes to look, but he does not like to be touched. And then why doesn't he like to be touched? And then I get this whole backstory. And then suddenly there's him and his, like, he was an orphan and he was raised by an aunt who didn't want him as in her life, and was never cruel, but was also never loving. And it just kind of, there's other things along the way. And that's kind of But I have to do that with everybody. Like all my characters have a backstory.
Now you said something really important to me too, because not all the time, and in fact, probably most of the time, not all that actually needs to hit the paper. Some of it does. Some of it certainly. Sometimes the crowd needs to know that, but other times the backstory in your head then is enough to affect that character's choices.
Exactly. And as long as I know he's acting consistently, it will come out in the book to readers, even if they don't know why it works, it'll work.
Is it unprofessional for me to say I love you at this point in the conversation?
I will totally take it. I will totally take it.
This is such a valid point. I've been building the story of the nurse in my head for like 5 years now. The nurse that shows up in every book along the way and explains what's wrong, or she's helping the character along. That nurse in my head has been like a real one person. She always has the same kind of voice too. She always sounds like this. And no matter what book you listen to that I've done, that's the nurse. And she has her backstory. I have to do that for everybody. And it makes such a difference because.
But I get why you do though. Yeah. I totally understand why you have to.
It makes people lean in a little bit.
Well, and also it gives you the ability to give the voice that you're giving character.
Yeah. You have to know why she is reacting one way to one character, one way to another character. What's actually going through her head that day?
Yeah.
And I don't have to write a book on the nurse, but I know enough to make her a real life. Every character is the star of the show.
Yes, every character has their own, or they should.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I would say even in characters that have like one scene, I still have an idea of like. Even like a sketch of what's going on with them. And it's the same kind of way.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We've gone past.
I'm sorry.
No. God, I could talk to you for hours. Did you show the crowd your tits yet? Do the thing.
Oh, yeah, I've got
my. Sorry, guys.
My sparkly.
Whoa.
So yeah, that's
fantastic.
my sparkly top. My favorite. My favorite of all my flamingo tops. This is my favorite.
Yeah, no. I like it a lot. And you obviously have more flamingos than Florida.
Than I know.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I kind of picked flamingos because at a time, my second book that I wrote was one that takes place in Florida, and flamingos are kind of a plot point. And I was sort of promoting that book when I went to a conference. And one of the things that they talked about was branding. And I was like completely blank. And then I go, I don't know, flamingos. How's flamingos sound? Flamingos sound good. We'll do flamingos. But it really fits me though. I mean, I've always liked flamingos. I mean, it wasn't like something I just like totally pulled out of nothing.
Right.
And I very much identify with flamingos because they're completely ridiculous and they're awkward as hell. But they also can be stately and kind of intimidating. Mm-hmm. And so I love all parts of that, which is why my little icon is a flamingo holding a knife.
That makes you're kind of a little stabby.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense too. I ran into the same exact thing with my beard.
See, there you go. So,
yeah,
yes.
Like it wasn't necessarily intentional, but Jody and I were, a couple of years ago, we were taking pictures to try and put up. We were doing a website for johnsolonaries.com. We needed pictures for it. So we went out nature and we did all these pictures and everything else. And the final shot that we did, we were back home and we decided, I wonder if I could do like a silhouette of my head. And that was just one crappy shot with my phone, which my best friend cut out for me. Suddenly we have a silhouette. And that's the only one I used out of all of that. And that's become my brand.
There you go.
Beard.
Exactly. Everybody sees flamingos. They know me. They see, as soon as I heard the beard, they didn't even have to say John Solo. Yeah. I knew who it was.
Exactly. It's a branding thing and it works.
Because I had somebody come up to me at the dinner thing and they said, have you done the talk to the beard? And I'm like, no. And she's like, well, you need to talk to John. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. I saw him earlier. I'll find him again. So, I mean, yeah, she didn't need to tell me that it was you. I knew it was you. So she said, talk to the beard.
This thing we're doing right now in the hotel is like the hidden secret this year. So I wanted to like go do it downstairs and they didn't have enough time. They offered me an hour and a half for a room and that just wasn't enough time. I wanted to do like 20 of these. And I was like, well, that's not going to be enough.
No.
So I asked them, do you care if I do it in my room? And then sure, or whatever. I actually just had one of the organizers, I think it was Carol, up here. She was a guest before you. And she told us the history of GRL. And
that's awesome.
It was fantastic. But yeah, this is like, I haven't been downstairs to mingle. Like at all. I mean,
well, it explains why I only ran into you briefly. And now it also explains why I ran into you because we're on the same floor.
Yeah. Well, I saw you getting off and you were doing the mask and you were getting the shit. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I know.
And I looked at you, I'm like, oh, that's John.
Yeah. See? But thank you so much. Thanks for doing this. You're welcome on.
I had a great time.
Yeah.
I can sit down and talk with you any point.
Yeah, I think we're going to be all right. So I hope that Michael Flubu breaks a leg so he doesn't get to do your next book. And
oh God, you're hilarious.
Wave at the camera. Have fun. See y'all next. We have 5 o'clock is going to be Eden Winter. So
Ooh.
Yeah, 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock JST. See y'all later.